Medusa. We are Team Duchess.
Welcome to 10NFL1's Socratic seminar. My Last Duchess versus Medusa.
Well, I like Medusa because it's quite original.
I disagree with that because Medusa is based on Greek myth, whereas My Last Duchess is the original because he comes up with it himself. Browning comes up with it himself.
Well, I think that My Duchess is too much to read and it's not very clear and it has no stanzas, so it's not very interesting.
But My Last Duchess, it has two scenarios, and there's a whole different way you can think of it. So it could be a love story, or it could be a tragedy, and it's also a comedy, and it makes you think more about what the story is about. With Medusa, you straight away know what it is.
But with My Last Duchess, you can't relate to it in any way because it's not like you're going to go kill a woman.
I disagree with that. I think you can relate to My Last Duchess, mainly because of the fact of the superhero complex the character has. Because I guess everyone, or once in their life, want to control something or control some part of their life somehow. So I think that's how you can relate to the character in My Last Duchess. However, in Medusa, the character is quite one-dimensional because she only talks about her jealousy for some other character that we don't get enough description of, which I think is poor of Carol and Duffy to do. I think she should have added more description of the character that she was referring to.
But don't you think not many people can actually relate to superhero complex? I mean, how many people are that desperate that they're going to go and kill their wife because they don't like the fact that she smiles at sunsets the way she smiles at them? But like in Medusa, everyone in their life at some point will feel jealousy about their friend or their lover or their parent. They feel jealousy at some point, but not everyone has a superhero complex. So that's why Medusa, you can actually relate to it.
So you can relate it to real life with My Last Duchess, because there is a lot of men who overpower women and are jealous.
But they don't kill them, so you can't relate to that.
I can see the thing about not killing them, but you can relate to it. You can empathise with the Duke in the poem because he's a control freak, and you get control freaks in everyday life. And the euphemisms that Browning uses throughout help one to relate to it.
But don't you think it shows a lack of respect to women, the fact that he's controlling her so much that he feels that he has to be the thing to make her happy. It shows such a lack of respect to women.
I don't think you're meant to relate to that point in My Last Duchess. I think that was the bit where he starts getting jealous over the sunset, the horses and the cherries. I think you're meant to find that funny. I think that was a comedy aspect of the poem. You weren't meant to relate to it, and I think that's a great technique from Browning.
But aren't you supposed to relate for the whole poem? Because you're reading it, and not just reading it for yourself, you're reading it because you want to, and this is so engaging. Whereas My Last Duchess is so boring because the storyline just goes on and on. It's just getting boring.
It's not as boring as like Medusa though, because when you think about it, the Last Duchess brings more imagery than Medusa. You would have the images of the Greek myth that there is.
Do you think you can relate to a Greek myth more than a man talking about his wife?
I can relate to what she's going through. Because, I mean, at some point in our life, we're going to feel jealousy. But, I mean, I just don't think we can relate to this man who's so controlling. I mean, not everyone is very controlling.
See, I personally see Medusa as a ranting woman that makes no sense because nobody thinks a suspicion, a doubt, a jealousy grew in my mind. Nobody thinks like that.
Yeah, I do.
I think the techniques that Carol and Duffy use up in Javelin, like Louise has emphasised, the fact that it went on was ranting, shows how uncreative it is. The fact that that's the only way she believes. That's the only way she knows. Well, not as many as there's not as many as Medusa. No, they do use it, and I said that they do use it. I said that it's not as much as Medusa. I think that's an uncreative way to show jealousy, whereas Browning, however, used other techniques like euphemism to show his jealousy in a cunning and creative way, unlike Carol and Duffy.
But Carol and Duffy uses imagery and with metaphors and other stuff.
My Last Duchess is one ongoing metaphor that the reader can interpret in different ways. It's much more complex.
Yeah, but
So
So is Medusa is an extended metaphor, the whole poem is an
I think
extended
Medusa,
metaphor.
the poem, it has limited connotations to it because it's only one
But don't
voice,
you think,
whereas in Last Duchess there's many voices, so there isn't a limited connotations to it.
But it's better with one powerful
Yeah.
voice than three little voices, isn't it?
I think they're both, all three of them were powerful. I think because they had one voice against three to one, obviously you're going to listen to the three voices rather than that one voice of
Yeah,
that.
but that one voice is going to be more powerful and it's going to make an impact on the reader rather than
Not
three
really,
voices.
because it goes on about the same thing about jealousy. In here, it goes on about how he's ego-driven, he's superhero complex, and how also he's jealousy, but also how much of an arrogant man he is. In Medusa, just goes on and about how she's jealous of one simple thing. He had more than one jealousy.
but like in Medusa, like the animal imagery they use shows that her hatred is growing. So it's expanding on the point they've already mentioned. Whereas like My Last Duchess, don't you think that it's quite hard to interpret exactly what the poet wants you to get away from the poem? Because it doesn't actually say he kills her. It doesn't but I mean it's open to interpretation, so don't you think that's quite negative? Because you may not actually fully grasp the point the poet wants to put across.
No, see, I think that's what makes it so great. You can take this poem not just for face value like Medusa, you can interpret it in whatever way you want it. And things like she stooped, you can take that however you want to. You can interpret that as adultery or not, that she just stooped. So I think that's what makes it so complex, and I think Medusa is much more simple.
But I think complex stories are really like hard to read, hard to understand first of all, and it's like when you're reading it, you're going to get so confused in a way. But with Medusa, because everything's like short sentences, simple words, you understand it more, you can read through it quicker, and you don't need like a whole Miss Foster explaining everything to you.
I respect the fact that you might find it complex, My Last Duchess, but don't you think it's patronising in Medusa to use simple structures, simple words, whereas in My Last Duchess you're able to expand your vocabulary, you're able to understand language that you may not have used before, such as durst or whatever, the other sort of words that you wouldn't usually now use. I find it more engaging, less patronising than Medusa, to use simple language.
And it has more suspense, so it makes you think about what the story could be about and what could happen.
I disagree with that.
But with Medusa, you know what happens straight away. But then with My Last Duchess, it gives you more suspense of what could happen at the end.
I disagree with that because it makes the reader consider the effects of her actions, and it makes you like linger on. And also with Medusa, it has varied structure, and also it's simple but effective. Where with My Last Duchess, it's complex, and then you're just like, oh, does it mean this? Does it mean that? With Medusa, it's simple but it is effective.
I disagree with that. Because when you think about it, in My Last Duchess, there's more of a structure used, because when he's having a conversation with the servant, in Medusa, she's going on and on about the same thing.
Medusa's too repetitive, that she has 3 stanzas that are all about when she looks at things and how it affects them. And for me, that it bored me. By the end of the second one, I'd lost interest completely. Whereas in My Last Duchess, my interest carried on throughout it all because it changed and it wasn't repetitive.
Well, in Medusa, as in most stanzas or whatever, when she spoke about how it grew and stuff, it's really interesting because then you can relate and see how much it grew and like how big or whatever her jealousy. But with My Last Duchess, it's really plain, simple, and it's just like, it's really, really boring.